And good evening and welcome to tonight's roundtable where we talk to business leaders. And Tate Mahanjana is still on the way, so we're going to continue with Tate Rasithaba, who is the chairman of the newly launched South African United Business Confederation. And that a mouthful then. Tate Rasithaba, it's good to see you. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thanks for inviting us.
Oh, wonderful. Let's get straight into it. I mean, you can hear from that clip there that even small businesses who are running small establishments, restaurants, etc., are going to feel the pinch. What is your organization's view, first of all, about measures that have been put in place in as far as they're going to affect the economy? Are you happy with the measures that have been taken so far? Do you think that will mitigate the effects of this almost a national shutdown that's about to engulf the country, travel bans, those kind of things?
The SAUBC supports all the measures that the president announced on Sunday. But there is a however. As President Macron of France calls them, draconian, if you translate directly from French. But what we would like to see from our government, and I'm going to quote the President of France verbatim, on the stand that is taken in support of the of business in France.
Yeah.
He says those facing difficulties will not have to spend any money, not for taxes or social charges. That is your payrolls. Macron said he also indicated that rents and utility bills could be suspended for small and medium-sized companies in distress. France will ensure that all bank loans to companies are backed by a state guarantee totaling 300 billion euros, he said. He also suspended the application of his signature on a pension fund bill that they were supposed to pass, because he used the term, sorry, this is akin to the term that we used during the struggle.
Yeah.
No normal sport in an abnormal society. And we are trying to say no normal business in a disaster situation. For example, the business rescue practitioners of the South African Airways are going on as if there's business no state of disaster. As if there's no crisis, as if there's no coronavirus. When, and mark my word for it, the United Kingdom and the USA are going to rescue their airlines. To go to the extreme, I will say the activities of the business rescue practitioners must be suspended because the situation is not normal. Open up the internal routes, because international routes, as per travel ban,
so basically reverse some of the decisions that they
until
have
the
made.
situation go back to normal, so that those people in KwaZulu-Natal at King Shaka Airport can go back and work, so that we do not burden the state any longer. Maybe later, after the situation is normalized and there's no more coronavirus, then we can relax this type of measures that President Macron is talking about. These are the things we would have liked.
You think that's missing? Those are concrete things that are missing at the moment.
From the statement of Sunday of President Ramaphosa.
But don't you think it's because probably they can afford it? If you look at the budget that was just presented, for 3 or 4 weeks ago, what you are suggesting will probably just finish off that budget if they were to replicate. But
business is finished. They won't be able to pay the taxes that must support those taxes. We need to look for other measures.
But wouldn't that be blanket? I mean, as we're speaking now, the business people were talking to us yesterday, saying it's a boom. People are stockpiling and what have you. So people in retail may find that, in fact, they are making more money. Do you think that there's a blanket, suspension of taxes is a good idea?
The value chain of taking bananas and meat to macro that people are stockpiling will soon come to an end.
Yeah.
It's not a permanent, it's a panic situation.
Yeah.
We must be sober about it to say that let us sustain everybody in the value chain. Just like we ask people to wash their hands, we must also put the responsibility on people to say that as you buy that pile of toilet paper, leave a little bit for the others. And that's why I say it needs everybody to be responsible. But let me come back to the vision and value of the South African United Business Confederation. We are saying we need to take decisions that are not normal in order for us to adhere with the measures that are not normal that the president has introduced, that are killing businesses like Sakumzi's business. In a 7 days' time is the end of the month. The whole of these 2 weeks since Sunday, you could not have patrons of more than 100 because of this. But he must have the money to pay the suppliers, to pay the salaries of the people. In addition to that, within 14 days, he must pay the VAT and payroll taxes he has deducted from these people. Probably he owes SARS maybe in terms of income tax. So we are behaving as if things are normal when they are not abnormal. And the answer is there all over the world. I don't know what other measures the Congress of the United States will come up with. But Macron has given the world a direction.
Have you taken that matter up with the Minister of Finance in terms of your suggestions, or you don't think it's something that's on the table at all? I'm talking about this thing of lessening the tax burden for the period of the disaster, which only God knows how long it's going to be.
My understanding is that the discussion at NEDLAC, of which we are not a member of now as a newly launched organization, would have been discussed. But what I heard today from the chairman or CEO of the Banking Association of South Africa, that together with government, business is looking at measures that will assist, for example, will allow them to collude, because it's illegal to collude, to say how do they assist, for example, giving people a holiday on paying their bonds until they go back to work. So there are things that are happening, and we must laud business for that. But the signal should have come from government to say, while we are coming with measures that are very draconian and strict, we are going to supplement them and soften them so that we balance. At the moment, it's not a balance. Strict regulatory things that were mentioned by the ministers this afternoon, the travel ban. At the same time, we keep the business rescue practitioner to close our routes.
And but surely that's one. It couldn't have happened overnight. I mean, the state of disaster was only declared on Sunday, right? And what you are raising may be something that indeed must be taken into account in a business rescue. But won't it be totally disastrous if the business rescue was to be suspended?
It will not.
In other words, the suggestions you are making, for example, about bringing back the routes, surely that should happen within the context of that business rescue taking a different gear, not being suspended because you are not going back to SAA coming back with a begging bowl again.
Chief. Sorry, Mr. Tapa. The American Airlines, US Airlines, including Virgin, British Airways, are on a begging bowl. And the signal is there. They are going to be bailed out. Because as somebody said on Bloomberg yesterday, TV, to say that if you don't do that, this is the end of the airline industry. That's the thinking our ministers must have. I'm sure if you interview Minister Tito Mboweni, he will talk like it's 2 weeks ago before the state of the address that we can't bail out SAA. Countries are bailing out their people because it's about jobs.
But they've never stopped bailing out SAA. Even up to the business rescue situation, they still give SAA 16 billion rand 2 weeks ago.
Are you aware that at King Shaka there are people who are sitting at home now because before they even discussed Section 189, they had closed the route. They are sitting at home. So all we are saying, maybe let's not concentrate on that. But let us add.
It's a good example of extraordinary measures that now need to be taken. But the business rescue may be considered an extraordinary measure. All I'm saying is, within that business rescue, surely these people must adapt, right? I'm just nervous about you saying, pull the plug on the business rescue.
Did you see the interview today with Chief Justice Mogoeng? Somebody had taken a decision that they are not going to allow the public in the courts. They are going to take certain measures. But he said, as a leader, the courts are going to continue to operate. And those that have introduced those other measures, they have to comply with the directive we are putting. That's the leadership we are looking at from President Ramaphosa. Let us do the extraordinary things and save business in South Africa. Consequently, our members in the road logistics, in the manufacturing and traveling and hospitality, as Akumzi has put there.
I want to talk a little bit after the break about how the issue of gatherings, right, or congregation of 100 people at a time could affect some of the retail business and so on. Because if you look at some of those businesses, naturally there'll be more than 100 people going through the doors in and out. We can see now people rushing to supermarkets to stockpile and what have you, you know. Do you think that maybe there should be an exception about that? Because sometimes maybe 100 people are not standing at the same place, going in and out and whatever. I want to hear your view about how that can affect business. You've seen with the restaurants, it's obvious. It means that if you at the 200-seater restaurant, you need to be able to close half of it, you know, only open for 100 people. We're talking to Ntate Lorasi Taba. We continue that conversation after the break.
Gatherings of more than 100 people will be prohibited. Mass celebrations of upcoming national days, such as Human Rights Day and other large government events, will be cancelled. Where small gatherings are unavoidable, organizers will need to put in place stringent measures of prevention and control. Schools will be closed from Wednesday, 18th March, and will remain closed until after the Easter weekend. To compensate, the mid-year school holidays will be shortened by a week. Government is working closely with colleges, universities, and other public facilities such as parliament, prisons, police stations, and military installations to intensify hygiene, control, and other measures.
All right. President Ramaphosa there on Sunday announced a state of disaster, and that's what I was saying before we went to a break. Right? How do you analyze how this will affect your members? Because you're dealing with large number of people transporting goods or exchanging goods or being in retail. I mean, a medium-sized retail place easily has more than 200 people walking around with trolleys and what have you.
First, the SAUBC, without contradiction, supports all the measures the president has announced. Because remember, here is to deal with the pandemic called coronavirus, COVID-19. So we think they have applied their mind. They've come up with those measures. What we are taking issue with is that these are abnormal and draconian measures, which are required, by the way, to deal with this disease. But equally, what we think they did not think about is the effect of these measures on business. One of those, I will repeat, is that Sakumzi now will not be able to pay workers at the end of the month. Because the number of people who are coming there will be reduced to 100. But however, the president did make a little bit of an opening to say where you used to have 12 people sitting on a table. I think this is my interpretation of the control measures. Let 4 people come, so sit there. Maybe you can go beyond 100. I'm just trying to say, he did open a little bit to say that where you have to have more than 100, take some control measures that will enable
to mitigate that situation.
Mitigate that. So business also must not throw away. They must also be creative to say that when they are charged that they have more than 100 people, it says, do you remember the BAT?
The BAT.
It's in President Ramaphosa's speech. So these are the control measures we have taken. We are not allowing 12 people to sit on the table, but 6. And they've got a distance amongst themselves. So all I'm saying is that
we need to be able to use our imagination
to say, how do we rip that speech apart in order to make sure we comply within it? Every law has got loopholes. Whether you come with tax measures or you come with business people, entrepreneurs, usually look at ways of how do they survive. And this is the message that we have given to our members, to support the government and the president on the measures that they've introduced. Use your entrepreneurial skills to say how you can survive in a difficult situation like that. You know, business people are able to go to a war situation, like during ICYMI in Angola. Coke was able to go and drop crates of Coke in Angola and sell them in a war situation. So business people survive. In Gaza, you have got in Palestine, entrepreneurs surviving. So as far as, and all they need is a conducive climate to be able to do business. They don't want to be held by the hand, but they also don't want to be blocked. And that's basically what we are saying to our members. Let's come up with creative ways on how we can survive in this situation.
Well, we've seen stock exchanges around the world crashing. I don't know whether you can give us an analysis of how you see the stock exchange here performing and whether it will be able to hold up, its head in these tough times, and what would it mean for the economy?
In our statement that we released this morning, JJ, we said by lunchtime yesterday, the JSE's all-share index was down 12% as global panic selling intensified. Last week, the JSE lost 15% of its value and suffered 2 of its biggest crashes in the past 40 years. And yesterday, the market lost 9.7% financial markets. So on Sunday, the U.S. Central Bank announced an emergency interest rate cut of a full percentage point, which brought rates to between 0 to 0.25% and gave a little bit of a break.
Reprieve,
our rent. These are not sudden decisions. These are people who are thinking on the go. We don't see them in South Africa. But we see a statement from the Minister of Finance. The Reserve Bank knows what they must do in the case of a pandemic. People are not taking decisions when they've got the power.
But the Reserve Bank is only sitting on Thursday, man. Hey? It's only sitting on Thursday. Why are you already saying they're not taking decisions?
The Central Bank of the U.S. didn't have to wait for a meeting of like that.
And they were not supposed they have their own process. No, I'm sure they must have their own process. So are you suggesting that the Reserve Bank were looking towards Pretoria there to see whether they will act accordingly? Because they seem to be quite conservative as far as interest rates are concerned. I agree
with Minister Mboweni this time. They must know how to act in the case of a pandemic like this. The rules are there. They should have reduced interest rates by now. So to help people like Sakumzi again.
Yes. Do you think that in terms of other aspects of the economy, like how the banks must operate and so on, do you think that it's something that could be considered? I mean, the issue of suspending bonds is quite a drastic thing, that would obviously give reprieve to people who now can't go to work and they have to sit at home. But the Banking Council was quite non-committal in that regard.
They were non-committal, but the language was a little bit different. I remember what I forgot his name, Kaskovadia, said this morning. We have met, I'm quoting him, the competition commissioner. We have also indicated the Minister of Trade and Industry that there are measures that they must take. Now he was talking about the competition law on collusion, to say they must suspend that. So I saw a signal there that there is some action that our
but they wanted to coordinate that action.
Yes.
So they didn't want to be on the bad side of the law, of competition law.
They will be fined. So they've never done that. That is why there's a signal that the banks at least are going to do something. And I'm confident because that type of language, we have never heard it from them. So there is at least light at the end of the tunnel.
Let's talk a little bit about food security. I mean, it's unfortunate that Mr. Mahanjana, who's more steeped into agriculture, couldn't make it. But I suppose that you must have members who are in that arena, right? How do you foresee the food security thing happening? I mean, people are stockpiling right now because there's the sense that if what's happening in Italy can happen here, where there's no movement allowed, you're supposed to just stay indoors, then there may be a sense of panic, right? What's your own sense as a business chamber about the issues of food security in the midst of a pandemic?
In order for food to reach each town, you see trucks on the road written the name of the retailer and all that. They are moving from a farm to a warehouse, from a warehouse to the stores. Now, if you listened to the ministers this afternoon when they were talking about the travel ban, all this travel ban were put into operation. We are hoping that they shall not disturb the value chain so a truck can move from the port of Durban if it is importing chicken, I'm just giving an example, from Brazil, and be able to take that to a warehouse and smaller trucks take it to the distribution point. I haven't seen anything in the measures that President Ramaphosa has announced that will disturb that food value chain. I haven't seen anything that will say, except penalizing the entrepreneurs who are in agriculture and farming with the number of workers who can be in the field, with the taxes that they must pay when there is no revenue. I am confident that our food security is safe with the measures that they have introduced at the moment.
Sure. I think you raised a very important issue about the value chain, people port to land until distribution
to
point.
Warehouse and to
surely if you block airlines from different countries, it means that the import situation is going to be affected. Right? In other words, that value chain, we may have to analyze deeper about what kind of foodstuffs are coming from where. And is that linked to countries where the airlines are no longer allowed now to come here, where the ships are no longer allowed to dock?
No, JJ, in terms of logistics, airlines transport what we call high-value goods. Your Rolex, jewelry, gold,
I see.
flowers sometimes, if there's a flower show in London. But most of the things that play a bigger role in our
food
security. The chicken comes via ships, even the fruits. Now we have sophisticated storage facilities of ships. We have ships that move at a higher speed to arrive in the things that we are trying to import are fresh. Except maybe for the box of fish, a restaurant in Sandton will order from Cape Town. But those are small. We are talking about bulk things. Our maritime and logistics ports that have not been closed, like Durban, which is #1 container port in southern Africa, are still open.
Okay, looks it sounds like you are very optimistic. I will take a break. After a break, I want to understand whether your organizations have roped in some people to look at doing some kind of actuarial projections, to say, okay, if this thing continues like this for a year, what trouble can we be in? What adaptation will we need? I want to talk about that after the break. We're talking to Tadesillo Rasitaba, who is the chairman of the South African United Business Confederation, and talks to me tonight about the effects of coronavirus on the economy. Stay tuned. All right, we're rounding off our conversation tonight on the effects of the coronavirus on the economy. I know that you don't have a crystal ball and so on to look forward, but surely there must be some kind of projections, right, to say if we extrapolate this situation now where there's almost a standstill, travel bans, etc., etc. Fast forward to a year, 6 months. What are you guys getting advice about how to model what may happen?
JJ, when we were formed, because of our experience in similar organization, I used to be Secretary General of NAFCOC in Gauteng a long time ago. I was chairman of the Black Business Council. We asked ourselves, what is lacking in most of those organizations? We roped in the gentleman you were interviewing yesterday, his advisor to the SAUBC, Dr. Padilo, because what we respect from him, we roped him in, and also Mr. Matlangwe, an economist who used to be the chairman of the demarcation board.
Yeah.
The reason we roped those two people, Mr. Matlangwe as an economist, understand how our country is divided in terms of wards and how our government want to do service delivery and how they can support business up to what level. But with Dr. Pati Lohotla, there's something that he mentioned yesterday.
Yeah.
Without data, you will not able to know what is your price index. Without data, you will not be able to know what's your poverty level. Now the SAUBC is blessed to have those two people.
Yeah.
The figures I mentioned to you earlier,
yeah.
the preparation for this interview,
yeah.
we consult with them to say, guys, including the presidents of the various export councils, the organizations. So we are determined that if Statistics South Africa is not going to collect that information, we shall do it within the SAUBC and make it available to the nation. Because it was scathing what Dr. Lohotla said, that our government for 7 years does not have the data on poverty levels, does not have the data on the price index. If I were government and I listened to the interview yesterday, I would not go and sleep peacefully.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely, because without that, it means that planning is poor. Now, in the context of planning, and it's interesting you raised this interview with Datelo Hota yesterday, that I asked him, it seems to me that there is capacity, there is embedded capacity somewhere in our country. If you look at how we handle the World Summit, how we handle the World Cup, and various other World Cups, Rugby World Cup, Cricket World Cup, and so on. Those are events that were handled with finesse, with professionalism, and so on, despite that they involved a lot of organization. And my big question was, how do we then, are we not able then to make that count in as far as a national plan is concerned? Do you think that that weakness of planning, which Lohotla talks about a lot, right, may disturb how we handle a crisis of this nature? Or must we take solace in the fact that if you look at specific micro issues, such as the ones I've mentioned, where we're tasked with a big task and everybody was saying, oh, no, these people can't, the World Cup, we had to try twice to bid for it because they were saying, the infrastructure is not up to scratch. We got the construction companies behind government doing certain things to make sure that the stadiums were ready, etc., etc. Does business take solace in that kind of localized success, right, to give the country confidence that this crisis can be well managed?
If you read an annual report or business plans, or I just forgot it's government speak that they take to Parliament, the first sentence, in line with the National Development Plan, we are developing this. And Dr. Padilo Hotla is saying, when you say in line with the National Development Plan, you are going to do this, build 8 million houses, I'm just giving an example, etc. What data have you used to come to 8 million? And he is saying That's where the problem is. And I think, and the advice from the SAUBC to government, please strengthen Statistics South Africa. Don't do what Trump has done to the states body of the U.S. Because he didn't want the figures of Latino Americans, etc., to come out. So, and we are not like that. We need that data to have a successful, investor-friendly South Africa.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you think that the current crisis, just linked to what you are saying now, may affect the investment drive? Because, I mean, it limits travel and so on. People are now focusing on survival in their countries. As you said, there's the stock exchange crashing. Do you think that we may have to revise our targets that were set at the last investment conference?
It will affect
our ambitions there.
It will affect it because on the 3rd of March, I think it was last week, the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development has issued a report that the predictions that were made a few months ago about the growth of the global economy, they are putting it down by 10 to 15%. So we are not an island in the world. And we are seeing these things that where business is not taking place. I don't know if you drove on the highways of Joburg today. There were fewer cars. I went to St. Michelangelo, there were 4 cars outside. So all I'm trying to say, where are those people? I haven't gone to the factories. I will go and check the warehouses. Because we have a meeting with one of our industrial members in the City Deep area. I just want to see, is there economic activity happening? So
could this have severe implications for what was already a downward trajectory? First of all, in terms of our economic growth. Secondly, in terms of possible downgrades by international rating agencies?
I don't want to say much about rating agencies because I've got a view about them. But when it comes to, there was an economist who addressed a meeting of from Nedbank, I think, of a shipping company internally. They just wanted to say, with South Africa, where are we going? And one of the things they pointed out to these economists, South Africa imports high-value goods, more from countries like the U.S., the European nation, etc. So I'm talking about communication equipment, machinery, etc. And then we import what I will call sometimes cheap goods from China. But what do we export? We export raw materials, which are owned by not more than 25 companies. If you tell me, I'm saying that you say that, will this have a drastic effect as long as China does not import those commodities, the raw materials, your manganese, sometimes even coal, etc. Will that make sure that our economy goes down? In terms of numbers, I'm not so sure. And the way of mining now, it's not the old gold mines where you have 5,000, 10,000 people going down from 200 meters sometimes to 10,000 meters with the deepest gold mine. So I think as long as we are able to do the things that we are suggesting as suggested by Macron, South Africa will survive. We are confident. And we are urging all our members, the export councils, business chambers, industry association, to say that they must ensure that the president's measures are executed, but at the same time they must lobby hard to make sure that they are mitigating things that are not normal, that this government must do.
Do you get a sense that there is a sense of urgency in terms of attending to how this will impact on the economy? Or are you worried as a business champion?
No, I've got a sense that South Africa is united on this. The things that we are propagating, some of them may not have been communicated directly to government. But we, next time we'll come back and tell you, no, they didn't listen to us. They think they know everything, or they listen to us who are implementing together.
Okay. Just in terms of the way that government is uniting in terms of various ministries and so on, are you overall satisfied that in terms of implementation, right, that word is being communicated thoroughly both to your members and the public at large?
I think there are, except that I took the opportunity last night to read the disaster act that the president has
invoked.
Yeah, you look at the implementation. I'll just give you an example. KwaZulu-Natal has announced that they now have at district level quarantine places. I've not heard of a municipality that says we have set up. So it needs to drill down.
Right down to
a village level, a chief announcing that I've set aside next to the clinic a house that we can quarantine people. Then you will know that the communication is drilled down.
What about business? Don't you think that business has been slow itself in coming out and pledging its support, say, to communities or to health centers and so on? I mean, we saw Standard Bank donating money to China. Well, I'm sure they've donated somewhere else, but they haven't told us with the same fanfare as they did when they donated to China. You think your business members are rising to the occasion? If you've got a business in a community, if those people start dying, you're going to fail as a business.
I think the business is rising to the occasion. Like I say, even if we are not members of NEDLAC, for the mere fact that they went to that meeting at NEDLAC, for the mere fact that the Banking Association of South Africa today communicated to South Africa of the measures that they are taking. Let's give business a break on that thing. But we are just saying from government, we want to see the language that Macron used. Those are not drastic things. We want to see government reversing the business rescue process and not behave as if everything is normal. Those businesses that used to support, whether it's newspapers or tea or coffee, the offices of SAA in Durban, they must, at King Shaka Airport, they must come back into business to go and support those offices. And the workers must go back to work.